A victim calls 911. 911 comes, runs him over. Put up the picture full mass. The man called the police for help. He ends up being fatally run over by the cop. Let me take you to the video first. Here it is. The man called the police for help. Put his picture up. Let me give you the highlights of this traumatic story. The family of 42-year-old Eric Cole, a black man who died after being run over by a police cruiser, has now filed a civil lawsuit. This is in Springfield, Ohio. Officer Amanda Rosales runs over Mr. Eric Cole that night. Officer responsible from Ohio and 2 dispatchers are in this suit for improperly relaying messages about him to the officer. Now let me tell you why that part is important. We have literally covered cases where young children have been killed by the police. Police were trigger happy and they should be held accountable for those murders. But when we heard the 911 call, we could clearly hear that the 911 caller did not properly relay the information over dispatch. I have long held from day one that when that happens, that is a contributory negligence that led to the death of a human being. That person has to be charged. You don't need to have intent to be charged with some level of homicide. You can have what's called gross negligence. You're so depraved about what you've done, you're so thoughtless about it, that you have went over the barrier to criminal, even if you did not intend for anybody to die. 911 operators are typically not caught up in the saga once it is revealed they misappropriated information. This time, the lawsuit includes it. Cole called 911 after he was shot lying in the street following a domestic dispute in June 2021. That's your incident. Instead of helping the man, the officer, let's put her up, she ran him over with her city-issued SUV. The officer was allowed to return to work after being placed on paid administrative leave for over a year. She got a 1-year vacation paid every single week by the taxpayers. After an internal investigation by the department, Chief Lee Graff and Ohio AG Dave Yost determined, and I quote, his death was tragic, but not criminal, chalking it up as an unfortunate accident. And the officer was not charged. Once again, they're playing games. They charge people every day with what's called non-intent crimes, meaning you don't have mens rea. You did not try to commit a murder, but your gross negligence did. That is still criminally chargeable. There are statutes to do so. Limited, but they are there. Attorneys Ben Crump, dear friend of mine, Michael Wright, and Rex Elliott filed the lawsuit on behalf of Joyce Wilson and Telek Dennis. Wilson is Cole's grandmother and Dennis is his son. They filed this against the officer and Clark County dispatchers, Aaron Reynolds and Mary Hurge. The December 14th lawsuit is not only seeking compensation for the loss of life and the amount exceeding $25,000, but for law enforcement to be fully transparent with the family and the public. The lawsuit comes months after a grand jury failed to indict those involved in the case. The attorneys also want the DOJ to step in and review the case to uncover any patterns or practices of implicit bias or excessive force. Because the emergency medics did not know he was hit by the police vehicle, he was never treated on site. Instead, he was transported from the scene by Springfield Fire to Springfield Regional Medical Hospital and then airlifted to Miami Valley Hospital, where he was pronounced dead the following day. The SPD stated in a press release around the time of the incident. Dayton 247 now reported the Montgomery County Coroner's Office said Cole did not die from the gunshot. He was only shot in the arm. He didn't die from that. He died from blunt force trauma to the torso and extremities. He died because the woman ran him over. That's the reason he's dead. If he decided to simply not call 911, the brother would be alive right now. And this is the perplexity that these things create, especially for my community. There are times we need to call 911, and damn it, we pay for it, and we should, if it comes to it. We should be able to trust that the emergency services that we pay tax dollars for will respond to us appropriately. However, the lawsuit alleges that had the medics known the cop hit Cole, they would have done more to save his life based on the information, and that is accurate. I mean, they've basically said that themselves. They were unaware that he was hit because they didn't relay that information. According to the lawsuit, both dispatchers failed to properly relay the 42-year-old's location to responding officers or to other dispatchers on their radio. That's a violation of protocol. They're all supposed to do that. Court documents show both Reynolds and Hurd spoke to Cole after he was shot in the shoulder. He left the place where he was shot and called 911 for assistance. Cole said multiple times to dispatcher, Hurd, I'm in the middle of the street. It's multiple times on this recording. Later, according to court records quoted in the lawsuit, Hurd asked Reynolds, did you let them know he was in the middle of the street? Reynolds replied, I didn't see it. The lawsuit states Eric was wearing a white shirt. Let's put it up. Lying with his feet toward the curb and his head towards the middle of the street. He was visible in the cruiser's headlights for at least 5 seconds, if not more, before the cop hit him. Let me ask you this question. If you're driving or I'm driving so recklessly that we don't see a human being in front of us in the street, and clearly we should be able to see this if we're simply paying attention. Do you think they let you go home? Do you think they let me go home? No, not at all. The police report mentions most of the incident details, including the officer being involved in an accident, it says. Involved in an accident with Cole, but did not explicitly say the officer hit the man. Well, she was just involved in an accident. Cole's family was not told about him being run over by the police officer until a day and a half after the incident and after his death, attorney said. Officials said the officer was confused about the location of the shooting and was reading house numbers when she struck the man. Once again, that's an admission of fact, admission of guilt. You were not paying attention, your negligence led to the death of another person. Will she be prosecuted for this? No, she will not, obviously, based on the last proclamation from the city. All 5 medics connected to Cole's case learned from news reports that the man they were treating was not dying from a gunshot wound, but because he was hit by a police cruiser. They learned it from the damn news. If these officers would have just cared about this man's life rather than trying to cover up their own dysfunction, he may have survived. They added to the initial EMS report stating in detail that one of them was advised the victim was hit by the cruiser, the complaint says. All right, added notes. All right, Jessica, thoughts here.
This headline is just terrible. I mean, a man who was shot calls the cops, gets hit by a police officer instead. This is why The Onion just isn't funny anymore, because that's a real headline. That's something that actually happened. And there was plenty of time to break. There was room to swerve. And the fact that she didn't feel the need to tell EMS what had happened, this man's life could have been saved if EMS knew what they were treating, that he was hit by a car and it wasn't a gunshot wound. His entire life would have been saved. But instead, she cared more about her career and saving her job as a police officer, when we can all see the footage from the dash cam that she had plenty of time to stop, plenty of room to swerve. It's just absolutely absurd that this happens in the United States, where we have so much resources to devote to good health care, and instead we have people dying in the streets, so much money going to the police, and instead they're reading house numbers while driving and not paying attention to the road.
Yep, there you go. We will continue to follow the story, bring you the updates as they come. Lawsuit has been filed. There will be movement in 2023, obviously.